This next panel has gathered talent from across the organization to speak about the future of diversity events. Please welcome to the stage Letitia Ricks, Senior Diversity Recruiting Program Manager, and colleagues Michelle Jackson, Speaker Management Director at Blacks in Tech, Rocio Van Nierop, Co-founder and Director of Latinas in Tech, Sarah Echohawk, Chief Executive Officer for the American Indian Science and Engineering Society, and Chris Wilkie, Chief Operating Officer for the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers. The stage is yours, Letitia.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Amazon Represents the Future session, Future and Innovation of Diversity Events. My name is Letitia Ricks, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. Today, we will hear from 4 leaders of some of the largest diversity organizations here in America. You'll hear from representation from Black is Tech, from Latinas in Tech, from SHIP, also known as the Society of Professional Engineers, and you'll hear from ACES, the American Indian Science and Engineering Society. So let's hear from the team and let them introduce themselves.
Hi everyone, I'm Michelle Jackson. I am the Director of Speaker Management and Operations with Black is Tech, and my pronouns are she, her, hers.
Hi everybody, my name is Rocio Van Nierop, and I'm Executive Director at Latinas in Tech, and my pronouns are she, her, ella.
Hi everyone, my name is Chris Wilkie. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at SHIP, and my pronouns are he, him, and his.
Hello, I'm Sarah Echohawk, Nawa. I'm a citizen of the Pawnee Nation of Oklahoma, and I'm the CEO of the American Indian Science and Engineering Society, otherwise known as ACES. And my pronouns are she, her, and hers.
Thank you and welcome all. So during this session, we'll hear more about the impact of COVID, diversity recruiting commitments from corporations, and ways that they are thinking about innovation for their organizations. So let's kick things off. So in 2020, corporations around the world, they wanted to prove their DEI commitment. What type of impact did that have on your organization?
I'd say for Black is Tech that we definitely saw an increase in the amount of companies that wanted to work with us. They wanted to prove, their commitment and sponsor events or, speak at some of our events. And I think for us that we kind of took the approach of making sure that those companies actually wanted to make a difference and to help elevate their involvement with Black and Brown communities. So not just to get an instant ROI and have, like a quick fix, because there is no quick fix to, DEI, but it really helped us to see how many people were interested and help us kind of vet out the ones who wanted to have more of a long-term relationship.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
How about you, Rocio?
I would say that it was, at first, it impacted us really, really negatively or harsh. I wouldn't say negatively, but it was a big pivot. At Latinas in Tech, we have a very large number of members, and most of the companies went online. So we had to support them on that transition of working from home. A lot of them had, that change represented a big mental health impact. Our organization, of course, relies on corporate donations and sponsorships. So at first they were like, oh my God, live events. No, we don't do that. So they held that. But then once COVID was not going anywhere, they really needed to invest in Black and Brown communities. So we doubled or even tripled our pipeline. So it was really great. Like at Latinas in Tech, we went from 2 sponsors to 40. So it's a big difference, and all our events, we have monthly events at our 18 different chapters. They went from live to weekly online events. So it was a big pivot for us.
That's great to hear. How about you, Chris?
Yeah, sure. At SHIP, we've seen several things, but I think the most important when it comes to the D&I initiatives and our corporate partners is similar to what you were saying. The growth has been there, the commitment. They're wanting to demonstrate, yes, we're serious about this. And so we've of course seen the sponsorships at the events continue, but we've also seen a higher interest in multi-year, long-term, year-long programming and sponsorship from that lens, which is a great angle for us. It allows us to take some of our programming outside of our events and continue continuing year round, and the sponsors are definitely interested in that.
So great to hear. And how about over at ACES, Sarah?
Yes, so definitely our phone has been ringing off the hook, so to speak. And that's been really promising for us. As a population, typically American Indians and Indigenous peoples are one of our biggest challenges is invisibility. And a lot of times when there are conversations about race or racial equity, we're not even invited, which is really has been tough. As the first Americans, we feel like we deserve a place there too. But a lot of times because our population is small and a little bit, or not a little bit, a lot invisible, we don't really get that kind of support. So it's been really heartening to see companies reaching out and recognizing that Indigenous peoples are still here and that we still count and that we matter. So it's been great so far.
That is so great to hear, and it sounds consistent that corporations are taking a stance, they're doing what they need to do, reaching out, figuring out the gaps, and then taking action from there. So great to hear. So in addition to corporate commitments, we also experienced a global, worldwide pandemic that put a halt to the way that we participate in different events, the way we host different events. So question for you guys, and we'll kick this off to Rocio first. What was the greatest learning from COVID that actually helped your organization to grow?
I think that bringing our events online for a nonprofit like ours means that we're not limited to location. At our summit, people will need to fly to the Bay Area, whereas on our online summit, we can reach globally. So being Latin American, people from Mexico, from Brazil, from Spain, or Latinos that live in India, in Australia, or in Canada, they can join. And this is great because our outreach is important not only for the Silicon Valley tech Latina, but to any Latina working in tech in the world. So I think it just amplifies the message.
That's amazing. How about you?
I think it's a combination of resilience and adaptability, right? Because as the organization, there were a lot of times COVID hit and we were pivoting in-person events that were getting canceled just like everyone else to turning those into virtual events, trying to draw the same number of crowd, meet the sponsor needs, etc. And then, so that's the adaptability side of it. But then you have the resilience side of it as well from our members going through the life changes of not being on campus, going through school at home, still trying to launch their career and staying committed to not only the mission of the organization, but to the community as a whole. And how are we going to stay connected and how are we going to keep things moving along in the right direction? And so I think that really summed it up for us was, that resilience and that adaptability.
That's awesome to hear. How about Sarah?
Well, similar to what my colleagues have said here, in terms of pivoting to virtual programming and events. And that, that's helpful because then, yes, you can engage people that you couldn't necessarily always engage. I think, though, what came out of this, and certainly we've known this a long time for those of us in Indian country, as we call it, that we're the least connected population in the United States in terms of access to broadband because of a lot of our reservation communities are very remote. So that really brought forward this issue that, yes, while the remote work is good and we're happy that companies are looking into that and doing that, a lot of our citizens can't participate in that because of that lack of connectivity. But the flip side of that was it brought that attention to light, and now we see a lot of support coming out both from the federal government and corporations recognizing that we need to get those places connected to the internet, that it's that important.
Yes, I love to hear that it caused that type of change. Awesome. And how about for you, Michelle, at Black is Tech?
Yeah, so with Black is Tech, similarly, we had to pivot, we had to change, from in-person event to a virtual event, and just like the workplace, and it's important that people recognize the difficulties that people have with having that remote work. But part of it for us was that having companies recognize that their employees could work from home, then attendees started realizing that I don't have to be in New York to attend this conference. You could be across the world, across the U.S., and be able to attend our event. So I think that was one thing that we really embraced and learned from COVID is that we can reach not even just more people, but even a higher level quality of talent. Because, sometimes, people are so busy that they can't even make the conference if they wanted to. But now you can log in, enjoy what you can, still engage with other attendees in the chat or different events that we try to have, to really keep people engaged throughout the day.
That's so awesome to hear, and I love that you guys are, already starting to think about how to take those learnings and bring them into the future. So, kind of thinking about future and innovation, at Amazon, we've created new tools so that we now are able to see how awesome your events provide value for us. So, being able to see, how many hires did we get from Black is Tech? How many candidates did we engage with at Latinas in Tech? How many of those candidates are still here from SHIP? And how can we make sure that we're moving candidates through the process from ACES? So we're really also thinking about future and innovation. So tell me ways, based on your learnings, how you're thinking about innovation and the future of events. So we'll kick that off to you, Chris.
I think this year it's the balancing act of trying to understand what the new normal is going to be. Right. So last year everybody went through the whole we're in person to going virtual, right, at the crack of a whip, and then you had to then turn around and now look at it and go, okay, we're planning back to be in person at our convention here in November. We've got a couple of virtual components. And then I'm already having conversations with our board of directors of, okay, well, what does this mean for the future, though? Is it a hybrid model? Is it fully back in person pre-COVID? Or is there some hybrid thereof or balancing act? And I think that's the unknown. I think that's what we're all trying to figure out is what is the new normal? Do we get to return to travel? Does Zoom take over? Where's that common ground, right? And I think that's the biggest piece of what innovation for the future is going to be, is what's the new normal for business. And you talk about recruitment and retention. What is the new recruitment method? What do the recruiters want out of our events? We're going to bring the members, but how do we make sure everyone gets what they need out of it? And so that's the open dialogue with the sponsors right now and with the members.
Right. New normal. I love that.
Yeah,
I love thinking about that.
It's the new normal. Absolutely.
Yeah. How about you, Sarah?
Well, very similar. Just like most other groups, we pivoted to all virtual last year for our big conference, right? And of course, none of us had experience doing that, so we had to learn it. But once we learned it, we did figure out, I think, as you're saying, that there's some potential here to think about how could we streamline this and run it with our in-person conference, to reach more people. And what is that going to look like? And just like you said, like having those conversations. So this year we are in person at the end of September, but we are streaming a large portion of the conference as well. And then in addition, doing a virtual college and career fair in addition to in person, and offering sponsors and partners all of those options. And I have a feeling, that's probably what we'll continue to do going forward, because it does open the door to people who normally can't participate.
Yeah, and I love that. You kind of mixed in the two and it allowed for you to expand, which is great. Very cool. How about at Black is Tech? What are you guys thinking about for innovation?
Well, for innovation, we have, a couple of new ideas under our sleeve, but we're trying to really embrace the hybrid model. This year we are going to be virtual. Our conference is in September, and so powered by AWS and Amazon. So we're really looking forward to bringing we looked at different kind of technology, different platforms that we could use, and the one we ended up with, we learned that not only for us and our team that we needed to figure out ways to use this to reach new people, but we had to make sure it's easy access for our attendees, make sure that our speakers are familiar and comfortable with logging in and setting up their presentation. So we do some pre-recorded sessions, but we do some live, but we want to stream it to everyone virtually. So I think some of the innovation that we're looking at not only deals with bringing the content and the conference to people, but also kind of looking at the diversity higher. What are ways that we can increase that engagement between the sponsors and the talent, so that we have a a new communication between them. So looking forward to some of that next year as well.
I love that, especially what you mentioned about platforms, because there's so many new platforms that have come out of the wake of this. It'll be interesting to see like how that continues to transpire, what new platforms will exist to create more engagement. Good call. And how about for you, Rosia?
We just had our summit last May. It was fully virtual, and we are starting to work on next year's event. It looks like it's going to be all virtual, but it might change. One thing that we learn is that not only we can reach out to anybody anywhere, but we can have amazing speakers that are based in Europe or in Asia. And that brings another level of quality that we can bring. Now, the other part I want to touch is the quality of the conversation and the innovation and evolution of the conversation itself. So I'd like to pivot that question to that, because that matters to us a lot. Most of our sponsors want to hire. That's something we can easily do. But the most treasured thing we have, our most valued asset, is our members. So if they're going to hire from them, our top priority is to make sure they go to a good home. So that evolution of the conversation is, what are you doing for your employees first? And I want to make sure that those are good homes for the people, because those are my diamonds. They want them. Right? So let's talk about what are you doing for your Latino employees, for your people of color that work for you? How are you making them decision makers and hiring managers? Because that is how you're going to bring in the talent. If you keep bringing entry-level positions, we're not changing the conversation. So we need to be meaningful and purposeful on that. So that is probably what we're going to be talking about next year.
I love that, the diversity, the innovation of the conversation. That is so incredibly important. And it perfectly segues into, how corporations can continue the momentum. We've had so many corporations to do exactly what you say. We want the hires, let's increase the representation. But if they're not at the table from a representation standpoint and a decision-making perspective, we're still not doing what we need to do. So in your opinion, how do we keep the momentum and prioritization of diversity at the forefront of corporate success? We'll start with you, Sarah.
Sure. I think, this has definitely been one of our biggest fears, is that, in the philanthropic world and in the corporate world and even in the federal agencies, right, it's like there's been this big push for racial equity. But is it just kind of the next new thing or the next shiny thing, and is it then going to fade away? And so I think, what we've been talking with partners about, and what we were just talking about here, is that certainly that change needs to be made throughout the corporation. So we need to see our people in leadership roles for the changes, right, to really happen. And I think, at some point, I would see that DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, or racial equity is not a separate program, right? It's just integrated into everything that we see in companies and federal agencies, where that's just part of the culture, right? That inclusive culture, so that it's not seen as like something that's set aside, right? Because if it's that, then it's always something special, right? And it's not going to actually change. So that's
Love that. Definitely has to be ingrained in the culture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How about you, Michelle?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, because at Blackest Tech, we really believe that it's not a one-stop shop. You can't just put a Band-Aid on D&I in February because it's Black History Month. I mean, we have Pride Month. We have there's a month and there's a occasion for everything. So it really does have to be interweaved into the organization, that, we're not just going to have an event this month, but to consciously think about and consciously actively recruit for diversity throughout the year. So it really has to be an infrastructure within the organization, and that means support from the top down. You see often sometimes a recruitment department may have a new head of recruitment, but then they don't have the support from the top down. So we really want to encourage organizations that to keep this as a priority for your organization, that you have different departments, the support that build up to that. Sometimes it's the managers that have to interview people. Sometimes it's recruitment that are bringing you new talent. So yeah, it definitely is a family affair. Everyone kind of has to be involved.
Love that. Love that. And I love what you said about kind of the intersections, because like diversity is not monolithic. There's, so many different intersections that, each of your organizations will represent, and they'll have to be intentional about that. So love that. How about you, Rocio?
For many, many years, people of color have been the buyers, the consumers of technology. And yet, we're not part of the making of the technology. Hiring us, as I said before, to the support positions, to the entry-level positions, is not going to change this. And by not changing this, we have artificial intelligence that is not reflecting us. It's not reading us, and we need to change that. So we need to flip the conversation and see, as you said, from bottom down, how can we change this? Let's talk about boards. Let's talk about hiring managers, directors, CEOs that are of color, and they will make up a more diverse team. And research has shown recently, if you go to Harvard Business Review, that a diverse company yields better results in revenue, in exit benefits. So we need to see this as a whole thing. So 2 recommendations: look at how you hire, who you promote. And second, the most important, look at the programs that you're offering your employees of color, especially. Do they have an employee resource group? Do they have executive sponsors helping them out? Do they have a budget? Do they have a space to really create programs to leverage the career development? Those are the important things in the conversation. So yeah, looking words first, I think.
Love that. Love that. And it's top down. Yep.
Yeah, and if I can just, also piggyback on that, I think we've all kind of touched on the importance of retention. I think Chris mentioned retention, and then like you're saying, bring us to the table. So, having, friendly or diversity within the organization at different levels, you could talk to employees who have been there, and they could be some of your biggest sellers too, to bring in additional new talent. So we have to make sure that our gems are safe, that our talent is safe in this new organization, and that they have the support needed to be successful.
I love that. So important. I love the in-word out concept. It's so great. And Chris, how about you?
Well, I'll take it a little different angle. If I listen to our members right now and what they really hone in on, there's 2 things that really come to mind from SHIP, and one is the concept of familia. And the concept of family, and that carries out, it's a core value for our organization, and I think our members take that to their schools and to their jobs at heart. They want to have a sense of belonging. They want to be able to be authentic in the workplace, and I think that is critical when you look at the data. I think it's something around, by the year 2025, 85% of the workforce is going to be millennials, Gen Z, right? You look at their attitudes and what they're interested in, things like corporate social responsibility, D&I. Those are core elements that are values for these generations. And so the companies have to be authentic in what they're doing. They can't just put a statement out because it's the thing to do right now or the political pressure's there. They really have to look internally at themselves and have the hard conversation and be authentic to the individuals they're hiring if they want to retain them. If they don't, the generations are going to move on, and they're going to go to the companies that are truly being authentic to themselves and allowing them to bring the authentic self to the workplace.
I love that. I love that. And it's definitely the authenticity and intentionality that that corporations are going to need. So great points, which segues greatly in terms of how, Amazon has been a partner for some of you a year, for some of you much, much longer. Would love to hear, how our support has benefited your organization in some capacity, and we'll kick it off to Blackest Tech.
Yeah, definitely. I think that the support we've gotten from Amazon has been consistent and really good quality. They've been one of our supporters and sponsors from the beginning. So even though we had hiccups in our first year, and you don't often have like big organizations, provide support to an event that's in our first year of production, but they were in the top 6, always been a good sponsor for us, and providing a talent team that we could work with. So not only does Amazon work with us for our conference in September. But for Blackest Tech, we have a partnership where we see that, we have other events throughout the year that we've worked with Amazon on. It shows in the type of events that we have in Amazon that entrepreneurship is important, so it's not just recruit, but we're building into and developing the talent also and making sure they have what they need to grow and then work together with Amazon in the future. So I think for Blackest Tech that we've seen that support from Amazon, and we gladly, pass it on to our members so that we can share it with everyone.
Awesome. Great to hear. How about you, Rocio?
Well, we've been partnering with Amazon for about a year, and it's been wonderful. I think Amazon is so huge in terms of a corporation, and we've seen traction in different divisions. So that to us is not only very flattering, but very enriching. We also have a few members that are spearheading chapters, local chapters that are employees at Amazon, so kudos there. So especially our Seattle chapter, some of them also joined our steering committee for the summit. So they brought not only speakers, but ideas of topics. So it's been a very thorough and wholesome partnership. Thank you.
Awesome. Yes, thank you. The benefits are mutual. We're able to pour in, but we're receiving from you all as well. So thank you. How about you, Shep?
Yeah, I think for us, one of the things that I've personally watched in the partnership with Amazon is the willingness to sit down and have that I'm going to use authentic again, but it's a continuing theme, right? That authentic conversation from the recruiting side, what you guys need out of us, what you're looking for, what's changing in your recruitment efforts and your world as a whole, as we have gone through COVID and the pandemic and those types of things. But you're also willing to listen. And you're willing to listen to us say, well, here's our members' voice. Here's what they're interested in. Here's what they're looking for. And that two-way dialogue seems to be extremely genuine. And it's something that we don't experience with every single partner. And, it's sometimes we have to pull teeth a little bit. Sure. But with you guys, it's a very authentic conversation, and we really appreciate that. It takes the partnership to the next level.
Yeah, and we listen too. Like, it's so important for us to listen and hear and to share back, which is why we've created such tools. So we know, okay, when we go to SHIP, we know that we get this caliber of talent. Let's go and double down there, or let's pour back into however we can. So thank you. And how about you, Isis?
Yes. So having Amazon as a partner has benefited us in a lot of ways. One is just having a partner of Amazon's reputation and caliber engage with ACES has done great to raise our visibility and the visibility of our population of Indigenous people. So that has been just helpful in just having that partnership alone. People realize, oh, there's some value here, right? We need to look at this, or other companies are doing that. So that's certainly been helpful. And also that Amazon, to use your word, authentic, right, has made that relationship authentic, and it shows because we have seen an increase in Indigenous talent at Amazon, Indigenous at Amazon. And we talk, right? Our population is small and we know each other and we talk, and people that work at Amazon, Indigenous people, have been very happy about the progress and how quickly it's happening and what's happening. And so that makes me happy to know that there are companies out there like Amazon who are taking it seriously and that are, and are helping to do those things that we talk about, make people feel comfortable when they come into work there like they have a community.
Yes, no, and I love that. I think that tees up perfectly into our final question. We at Amazon, we want to ensure that we're doing it right? And we've got folks that are watching this now that are leaders in different organizations, and would love to hear directly from leaders such as yourself. What advice would you give to a corporate leader in terms of how we can be more authentic and more intentional as we are connecting with you all as partners, but also reaching out to the communities that you all individually support? What would one piece of advice be that you would give to a corporate leader?
Okay, and for me. Let's see. So I think advice that I would give to a corporate leader on how they can continue to support our efforts in recruiting and whatnot would be to make sure that we have a relationship that we're building. So not only just that we're providing, that top talent, for you, but that we have an area or a platform where we can build relationships. So I think, and I think someone mentioned it earlier as well, that we want our members and our talent to be able to ask corporations, why should we work for you? So we want to be able to have that dialogue. So I think one thing that they could do, and one thing that we like doing at our conference, is having a room or like a virtual room where corporations can do that, where you have some one-on-one time, you can let people know what it is to work at, what is it like to work at Amazon, so that people can really get connected and understand, and to build those relationships beyond a one-time conference, but other events as well to move forward.
Love that. Love that. Deeper relationships. Got it. Awesome. How
People
about you?
stay.
How about you, Rocio?
Okay, so I already mentioned before
Yeah, you did.
a
You gave
suggestion,
really good advice.
but I'm gonna use my time to send a message to all the employees, especially people of color and minorities. You are leaders, so there's homework. Be a mentor and find a mentor. That's super important. Join that ERG group if you haven't done so, and ensure that you speak up and you share your pains and have management listen. And there is a disproportion on salaries between minorities and non-minorities. So ask for a raise. You already have a no. So ask for it, and chances are you might get it, or you might get promoted. So those 4 things for each mentor. Like if you don't have a mentor, then you be the mentor. And for every mentor that we surface, 5 people will step up. So I think that is the most important thing. Don't wait for your leaders to change. Don't wait for the system. Change yourself, and then that change in the whole population will change the system. So that is my recommendation.
I love that. Yes. So we've got recommendations on both parts, corporate and employees. Yeah. Great. I love it. How about you, Chris? Either way.
Well, I'll take it a little bit different angle from my colleagues here, and I'll speak to the executives. And I think the number one thing you can do is actively listen. We know the data shows the majority of the executives are sitting at the top are white. And that's something that we're trying to change, and we can, that's where the movements and things come in. But in order to be effective leaders, we've got to actively listen to those that you're trying to serve, those that you're trying to recruit and retain as employees. And I think that's one of the biggest things. You've got to be willing to listen to the voice and then turn around and support the voice as executive sponsors, put dollars into the programs, and listen and form those programs that your employees are saying they need and that they'll be interested in. That'll support them. So I think that active listening is going to be critical.
Love that. Love that. Hope you guys are taking notes, executives out there. All right, and Sarah over at ACES.
Well, I'm going to kind of piggyback on what Chris said there and about the listening piece. And certainly I would say to companies who are interested in working with Indigenous populations that, yes, there has to be multiple touch points, right? It can't just be come to the conference and try to recruit and meet your numbers. Like, it has to be a relationship and multiple touch points throughout the year. And then in terms of the listening piece, like you were talking about, yes, listen to the partners you work with, but also go out to the communities. I think I know there are so many misconceptions about Indigenous peoples as contemporary people and what our communities are like. And if you don't have at least a basic understanding of our people, then I don't know how you're going to serve them or have them, become part of your company. So my recommendation is definitely get out to some of the communities, and certainly partners can help you do that so that you understand where they're coming from, right? And you really understand better the population you're trying to work with.
I love that. Excellent.
If I may, and
Sure.
I'll just piggyback. I mean, you're talking about getting out in the community, and yes, you have to actively listen, but with that comes a level of education as well, and it's self-education, because no matter what your experiences have been, you're not walking in the skin of the people that you're trying to serve and that you're trying to listen to, and so that combination of that self-education, that active listening, it's crucial. It's crucial to be impactful.
Super powerful, and such incredible advice and guidance from this incredible group of leaders for some of the largest diversity organizations across America. So I want to thank you all for your time. It's been an incredibly rich conversation on how we can innovate in diversity events and what the future looks like. You've received a ton of advice and guidance from these incredible group of leaders of organizations in their space. So I hope you guys are taking notes. Continue to enjoy Amazon's Represent the Future. Take care.